back to another LinuxGameCast Weekly, the show that covers the latest Linux gaming news, reviews, on-tos, and most importantly, whatever the hell else we come up with. This week, Steam has finally reached the big 15, and we're talking million on that one. Also, we're going to be talking about Eathan Lee, because he's talking about boys, and not just regular boys, Wonderboys.
Thin isn't beautiful, but ham is. And normally, we don't usually advocate clicking export, but FNA might change our mind.
Steam now uses much less power in the background and supports high DPI. And Nvidia may be targeting a gap in the market. There was a picture showing a 1070 Ti.
That's terrifying. I've been stoned, you know me, here sitting back, switching the bits, running the boards, doing all the nightmare fuel, using all the penguin sauce in the known mothering universe joined every week by that man over there, our Canadian correspondent.
I'm superpositioned. You never know what direction I'm in, because if you point at me, I'm always in the opposite space.
It's always super frightening, man. It's terrifying. It's a little bit petrifying, and all the way staying up late, burning the midnight oil. That is
midnight was over 3 hours ago. That oil's long gone.
Okay, well, he's awake, technically. We'll give him that. That is Juan Pedro Mateas. And joining us, watching us live, helping us do this, that's Shatrealm Dynamic joining us in IRC and Discord. It's kind of brilliant because they help us form that last little bit known as Cocaine Voltron. Before we get started, we do like to see what's going on in each other's life organs. Gentlemen, I mentioned this in the pre-super shows, and but I just want to say this again because I kind of feel like this is a pro tip that I wish somebody would have sent me a text and be like, hey, dumbass, do this instead of pulling out your 770. Had to reset the Ryzen Mobo because I got a little crazy with the Cheese Whiz and too big for my britches. The jumper, I knew where the reset jumper was. Didn't have to look in the motherboard manual because I could visualize the most fucky part of that motherboard to get to. That's where that jumper would reside, and lo and behold, right between two MSI Twin Frozer 2.5 slot video cards. So after I'd unplugged everything, pulled everything, no way to get to it either. And all I had to do was like short the jumper out for a few seconds, pulled the 770 out, and I'm sitting there the entire time. And I'm thinking, I know a way around this. Then, of course, after everything's apart, it's like, you could have taken a steak knife and reached out in there and touched those two little leads together, or a paper clip or anything like that. But no, your dumb ass did it the hard way. That's my story. What's going on with you, J Baby?
Well, I had my own little computer repair horror stories. My laptop was being all grindy and loud with one of the fans. So I ordered some replacement ones off the Amazon. Had to express them from China because otherwise they would make it here long after I had left for Finland. And I kind of wanted that laptop fixed before that trip. So came in. I posted some pictures of the before and after on Google+. It's done. Holy fuck. I need to learn where to keep my itty-bitty Phillips head screwdriver heads because I was struggling with like the second smallest one trying to get those fan screws in. And that was an exercise in extreme frustration. But everything's all nice and working right now. The laptop's running as cool as, a mobile i7 with like a thin strip of aluminum lying on top of it can. And yeah, that's basically it. That was my week.
Yeah, I'm just glad that I'm not the only one hearing that echo. Over here, I also I took apart the monitor bit of my Lenovo B5080 because I saw a very cheap 1080p IPS monitor on eBay. And I thought, you know what, even if that's not an IPS monitor, as long as it's 1080p, I'll be happy. Turns out, yeah, it is an IPS monitor, 1080p, which uses less power than the old crappy 1366 by 768 Tian panel that it had. So I don't know what the hell's up with that.
Old laptop parts are old and power inefficient, much like
Probably.
Steam, who was becoming newer and sharper and edgier, and I guess has a lot of people using it. It's kind of nuts. It's the Steam
Update.
50 million users, man.
Yeah, man. I mean,
Yeah.
it's definitely a thing. Currently, right now, there's 9.9 million on a Saturday night, but you're here watching this Nightmare Fuel. But no, man, it definitely happened. 15,084,410 happened 11 hours ago. So this is the first time ever it's hit that number, and it's kind of impressive when you think about it, because, well, it's Steam. They're printing money. And this, ladies and gentlemen, is why we will see. We'll not see, I guess I should say, anything from Valve that ends with a 3.
No, if you're still expecting that to happen, if you're still expecting Valve themselves to develop more games, you're delusional. You're outright delusional. Because
no,
yeah.
no, you're straight up wrong, because they're developing card games, all these card games for the 15 million people to spend money on hats. I'm just thinking, when I see this number, that's like hundreds of thousands of Linux users that are just there to ignore, man. Like, fuck us.
Oh yeah, PC gaming is dead.
PC gaming is dead, man. It's all about the next generation consoles, which they want to have the upgrade cycles down to 2 years on those.
2-3 years, yeah, because
Cell phone upgrade cycles. iPhone.
No, but here's the thing. Yeah, people are literally willing to drop $1,000 a year for a brand new iPhone. It's not $500 for a console is not that big of a stretch.
No, man,
it really isn't.
Listen, I just want to. Apple, I love you. Thank you for releasing $1,000 iPhone. I love it when you release markers like that for me to visually see in public. So.
It's you spent $1,000 on that phone. I'm not talking to you.
Like if you look at the Samsung Galaxy S7s and S8s and whatever, those are knocking on $1,000. They're like $750 to $899. Yeah, they're ridiculous.
It is ridiculous. But what about this beta update, man? Did it fix anything with the HDRs and the UHDs?
Well, the HDR, not so much the UHDs. Yes, it did. I guess they've got tired of people just complaining. It's like, oh, we have UHD monitors and super high-res monitors, and the Steam client still sucks when it comes to high-resolution displays. Well, they introduced, or they claim to have introduced, basically a scaling for the overlay while you're in-game that fixes, it's now aware of your monitor's DPI and scales appropriately if, say, you're running a game at UHD. Supposedly, it should be aware of that DPI or high DPI, as is the case, and appropriately scale everything in the overlay, which I guess is progress. On my end, since I only have 1080p monitors, the only thing I really cared about was a reduced CPU usage and battery impact when Steam was running in the background, especially since, laptops, got a few of those lying around. Stay tuned for that. But if you have Steam installed and are on the betas, and you go back to the stable version, you can actually see the difference in battery consumption. Good on you, Valve. Took you long enough.
I mean, my laptop's battery life currently tops out at about 1 hour 45 minutes. So, I mean, squeezing out that extra 5 minutes is really useful for me. They also have an update to the SDK for layered UI components. So as far as I can tell, this basically means that you can have UI components that have overlapping functionality that are all triggered at once, which I guess could be useful maybe for VR scenarios. I'm not really sure what this actually means. Maybe a developer can jump in, send us some hate mail, but that is definitely a thing. I don't know. I never really had too much issue with high DPI stuff with the Steam overlay, but that's maybe because I just don't care about it that much.
The biggest issue I currently have with everything else, even running XFCE4, you can fudge around with Thunderbird. You can find your configurations to make 3840 by 2160 completely usable. I'm using it right now. I mean, everything on this display is running at 3840 by 2160, and it's completely manageable. No issues whatsoever, except for the Steam client. It's itsy bitsy teeny weeny, and there's this one high DPI theme for it. doesn't fix the actual content because it's just a glorified fucking web browser where you
the borders, everything around the borders, you can see that just fine.
They'll fix all that, but the actual content.
Tiny.
And I'm sitting there for just like, sweet holy hell, let me control scroll wheel up, man, or down, and big in that, and I would be happy, but nay, Steam.
In fact, the biggest issue with the overlay right now, especially on Linux, that they still haven't fixed, is if you have the overlay open for some time, it will inevitably freeze the game that you're currently playing, regardless of which game it is, regardless of whether it's Vulkan or OpenGL. Doesn't matter. It will freeze it, and that's...
I think I've had that in mind just in the back of my head, because I never run into it, because whenever I leave the overlay running, I periodically just pop back into the game just to make sure that it's still like actually going. So I don't think
there's also that. But here's the thing with the overlay, I tried it, tested it. It's been readable. I'm kind of with Jordan. It's like, did you change something? I couldn't tell. Now
apparently it's now aware.
Well, I'll tell you, they need to make the friends list and stuff like that aware, because that's cute when that postage stamp opens up.
Oh, for sure. And they need some. I don't know, because it is a web page. They could basically use some responsive design strategy.
It would be so easy to fix too, man. And
but you know what Valve has given up on fixing?
Mm-hmm.
It's that driver button in the Steam menu.
Oh man, that's definitely a true thing.
Has that ever worked?
Well, when this I genuinely hated this. What we're talking about. Check for driver updates. That's been a link since it came to Linux. And when it first came to Linux, it was annoying as hell because you couldn't disable it. And every time Steam started up, and Steam didn't know what drivers were what, especially with NVIDIA, if you had the latest and greatest, it would still think they were out of update. It was like a nag screen every time I started. It didn't do anything. It wasn't able of sorting anything. But apparently, it has quietly just kind of disappeared to everyone going, oh.
I've never actually hit that button because... So, in Linux land, graphics drivers are kind of weird, right? Because back when Steam launched, you had FGLRX, which had its like fucking lying bullshit installer that required a bunch of hacks to get working on new kernels and whatnot. So, I'm pretty sure Steam wouldn't be managing that. You had the NVIDIA driver, which there are lots of third-party repositories that handle... your NVIDIA driver installed for your Arches and your Fedoras and your whatever. You can basically pick one that packages it in the way that you like and use it. And if you're on Intel or if you wanted to use the open source drivers, you either had to build them yourself or use your distros packages or maybe a PPA Copper repo, whatever. So that sort of functionality doesn't really exist in Linux in the same way that it can exist in Windows, where you have like, oh, what's the latest driver? We're just going to grab it from this driver site and run the installer, and that's all you need to do on Windows. I mean, good that it's gone. It sort of defeats the... I mean, even with Steam OS, they handled their graphics drivers through Steam via their update system. Yeah. So it really never had any impact whatsoever.
Well,
at all.
Big picture mode, you never had this link. You never had the link to check for updated video drivers. But on Linux, I remember trying when the client first came out in beta, even though I wasn't invited to the beta, I did that little trick to go directly to the library and it would let me in. And then I sent an email to Valve and said, look, please don't ban me. I just need to get, Steam on Linux working for them too, back in the day. But yeah, no, they immediately, afterwards, I immediately got the email saying, okay, you've been invited to the beta. Neat. But I remember trying that link, and it just says, not supported on your platform. So yeah, no, bye, good riddance.
And I mean, yeah, if you read the comments on this Reddit thread, the link to this is in our show notes. It's all Windows users talking about it.
They're talking really about GeForce Experience.
No, very minimal mention, at least none that I saw, about this affecting Linux at all. So I'm pretty sure we're all just going to keep rocking or rolling onwards. Yeah.
Hey man, Tooth and Tail is out, and there has been a lot of damn hype around this game, and I can't, for the life of me, figure out why.
Well, rodents and RTSs, man. It's alliteration.
It made a big splash at whatever PAX it was first presented at, and there were a lot it influencers that they call them nowadays, YouTubers with a lot of people following them, basically. And they were saying, oh, that game is awesome. Oh, that game is awesome. And I guess the hype train got started right then and there. And it's now out. It's out for Linux. And it's an RTS with a pixely visual style where it's basically post-apocalyptic type deal where you have animals that are basically fighting each other for the right to eat each other because the world has very little food left. And
so it's like living in Los Angeles.
Basically.
Oh snap! So one of the things you, as the audience, yes, I'm talking to you, Brad, can do is if you're on the Patreon, you can comment on directly on the show notes and give us some direct feedback. Foxy apparently has been playing it, Mr. Foxdog, and he seems to like it quite a bit. Apparently the skirmishes are really short and digestible, which a lot of RTSs don't have. They usually sit down and make you commit to 20 to 45 minutes. But considering there's a lot of mice in there, do you think they expect you to cheese your way through the game?
I don't know, man. That sounds like that would make you one bad rat. Some people
let's stop that meow.
Remember, make sure to never use a controller and always use your mouse. Anyways.
I don't know, man. I mean, it looks all right. 20 quid, that's a fair price for what it looks like. And, it doesn't appear to be dangerously furry, so... Not that there's anything wrong
no,
with that.
There are some really nice hand-drawn bits for the actual character art. And the game graphics themselves are just hipster pixels like everything else nowadays.
Oh, we'll get to hipster pixels much later in the show. Mark my words. But let's close off the Steam segment. Don't Starve Together. We played a little bit on stream. It's been around forever. You've probably picked it up in a Humble Bundle at some point because they keep tacking it on. But they have some news. Both the single and multiplayer games are getting updates. Single player game is getting a bunch more content. They're getting an additional area, some new fights and whatnot. And the multiplayer mode gets these new themed levels called The Forge. And it's more combat focused.
Wait a minute. Did you say The Forge or La Forge?
Yes. Well,
Really?
Ben, I don't see what you're getting at. But anyway. Rip headphone users.
Yeah.
All right, RIP headphone users. Anyways, they have some 6-player co-op arena challenges for the multiplayer thing. What they're doing is they're going to be testing out a bunch of different game modes, and ostensibly, if people actually like them, they're going to start molding them into the merging them into the main game. So this is just a way they can test some stuff out, maybe change up the Don't Starve formula, and get people's feedbacks. There's also apparently some skins that you can buy because people love that paid for DLC for all the cosmetic shit. They do have a new section in the single player mode for Don't Starve called the Hamlet, where everything is all pig themed. I'm sure all the
that will only be available Q1 or Q2 2018. That's like the announcement.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
As the page says. Yeah, so it's just updates. If you like Don't Starve, it's more Don't Starve. If you like Don't Starve Together, maybe get into some fights and throw some bacon at people.
Man,
All right.
seems legit. What's coming up next, baby?
Coming up next, AMD gets a little hot and heavy. And so does Eathan, just a little bit.
Yeah, you're kidding.
He's very pretty.
Well, he's already hot, yeah.
Yeah, I just get lost in his eyes.
Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, I was distracted just now. There are a lot of anime pictures going by in our Discord, which you can join if you decide to be one of these great, awesome people that keep on giving us money every single week. Jordan,
How dare you go beg these people, these fine viewers, for money for this thing that they just watch every week for free? How dare you even propose that someone give us money to continue this? That is absolutely obscene.
Well, that's instant karma if I ever saw it.
Maybe they could help you.
Obscene. It causes my Jitsi window to crash.
Afford to buy. We could buy you better internet in Canada or something.
Or we can afford to make a sizable donation to the Jitsi Foundation so that they can upgrade their goddamn servers. But if you want to be one of those horrific, dumb, easily duped people, you can head on over to LinuxGameCast.com, hit the support the show button. We got Amazon affiliate links. We got an Amazon wish list that is conspicuously empty because people kind of went a little hog wild on there. We got PayPal donate buttons for single, one-time, or recurring donations. We got Magic Internet money if you want to send us some Bitcoin. We don't know who you are, but keep sending it. It's pretty great. Yeah. And of course, if you want what this ugly Mexican lady said before, you can head on over to patreon.com/LinuxGameCast. 106 of you are forking out $210 an episode, which means we had a bit of a rough start with the Serious Svung, where I'm forced to play through the entirety of Serious Sam 3, but we're hammering out the kinks. We'll get that resolved. And you get to listen to me suffer and complain and piss and bitch and moan with Sandy and Ben and sometimes some rotating casts of hooligans. What's the next goal? I think we have a merch run coming up at 250.
We got a merch run, which if everyone sticks around, if you're going to watch the video, you might get some ideas, some things that are going to be slid into that business. But especially with that wish list, what we need to let everyone know about is Frank here, man, because Frank's got a wall.
Oh, the fuck wall.
It's the fuck wall where he stores all our fuck buddies.
But I think we got somebody new on there for some reason, right?
Oh yeah, we got Truggy. He gave you that fancy pink thing that you're sitting on right now, and the chair as well.
Giggity. That's what I'm talking about. Here, I'll see if I can show it off without destroying every single thing we're doing right now.
So, Jitsi crashes, OBS crashes, all thanks to you guys.
There it is. There, you can see all the pinkness.
It's so but you can't see his pasty wet legs planted on them. We also got to give Joseph C a shout out because apparently he straight up got a horse.
Yes, he did.
Tell us about that, Pedro, because that he threw some money through the PayPal that one time donated-a-thon where you just boom, cash on the bill right there. And you can include a message with that. And you know what? That's how we work, man. Keeping us loud, live, and independent. But at least we can do is read your message on air, and here it goes. This is a good one.
Indeed. So Joseph says, I got a horse this week. They said his name was Pithram, and would I like to change it? I said, yes, he is now Pithram Mateos. Cue the West of Loathing music as I ride into the Sunset Partners.
The West of Loathing music?
I know what he meant. Picture.
No, that's not what he wrote, Twitter. Though. And we have one rule on Linux Gamecast for reading user submitted mail, and that is we read exactly what they write.
Okay, fair enough. The West of Loathing music as I ride into the Sunset Partners. And yes, he did post a picture on Twitter. I'll put a link in the show notes, unless for some reason I forget. But I'll put a link in the show notes to that particular tweet. It is a very good looking horse. I'll have to say that.
Would you fuck that horse?
Man, that's racist.
Not into that.
Again, thanks everyone doing this. Check out the Patreon thing. If you're new to that, think about it. I want to thank everyone who is supporting us with that. But with the Patreon, you get access to your own custom RSS feed, so you get early access to some stuff, and you get access to our pre-super shows and some other wacky stuff that is going on.
Speaking about hot sexy things, what about hot sexy AMD?
Oh man, I heard there was some spicy things going on that were not capsaicin based over at
Tell us about it.
Radeon Technology Group. That's right, Raja, man. You know him. He's the guy who's been burning that midnight oil with the Vega chip. Well, he's like, hey man, peace, I'm out, but not completely. No, he's like, I'll take a 3-month holiday, because this product just released and I'm the guy behind it and I should be out promoting it and all. Yeah, peace out, guys. And Dr. Lisa Su is going to come in and just, she works with the chip division, which is technically separate from the Radeon video card side. I'm oversimplifying for the sake of time here. And he's just like, hey man, I want to spend some time with my family and all that. So you can take that on face value, You absolutely can, and it's completely legit. But, taking off 3 months or, like the air quotes, taking off so Lisa can kind of come in and clean house. Because here's the thing, Brad. You kind of could. You kind of could get away with releasing like a really, and I'm sorry, not even AMD fanboys are sticking up for Vega too hard. Releasing kind of like a little stinky GPU when the CPU division at AMD with Piledriver, Bulldozer, and stuff like that, they were basically damn jokes compared to what Intel was throwing out. And that's why you had the Intel, 90% markup, because fuck you, that's why. Fortunately, that's no longer the case because we have Ryzen. And let's face it, Vega is one stinky stinker, man. It's not really competitive, man.
That stink is very familiar to anyone who's ever worked with computers because it smells like molten silicon. 210 watts for the Vega 56, which matches up with the 1070, which happens to be a 150 watt TDP card. Now, if you want to match up with the 1080, say, you would need to go for the Vega 64, the liquid-cooled version, which has a TDP of 350 watts. 350 fucking what the? How?
Why are you surprised, man?
I mean, you can only feign so much outrage. If he was wearing a monocle, like it would just like fly off and like lodge itself into one of his IPS monitors. But yeah, no, it kind of reminds me though, because there was this company. They recently got a contract for Bordeaux, France. What they're doing is they're creating these like supercomputing farms using Ryzen chips, actually, because they can cram more computational power into it. They're setting up server farms that will also heat people's water. So like maybe they could use Vega cards for this because they're going to generate a lot of heat. That's a lot of hot water. That's a pretty long shower for those long showers that you often want to take. It's a shame that the Vega cards aren't that great for compute though. Mm-hmm.
Well, here's the thing. I'm going to save somebody's hate mail because they're already screeching and typing it out. But they're really good for mining Bitcoin. This isn't Linux Bitcoin cast.
No.
No, that's Tuesdays.
And it really sucks, man, because I think the suckage is amplified because Ryzen is such a nice piece of kit.
Mm-hmm. And it would be really nice because I've said this time and time again, AMD is in that unique position that they can compete with Intel and NVIDIA. They can give those two behemoths a fucking run for their money.
As it stands, though, it seems like they can maybe give one of them a run for the money and then give a half-hearted offering on the other department. Maybe Dr. Sue will take care of that. But, speaking of spending money on expensive video cards.
Well, here's the thing. I mean, it looks like AMD's not the only people riding this short bus lately.
No. But this one is just FUD speculation. Filth and lies. Someone snapped a picture over at some presentation, convention. I don't know what it was. Chances are, looking at the hieroglyphs, it looks like China or maybe Taiwan. And they snapped a picture which says GTX 1070 Ti, and it's an Asus Strix 8 gig model, supposedly. So that's interesting. 1070 Ti. I mean, okay, let's be honest. The MSRP originally for the 1070 was around 350, and the 1080 started at 599.
I'm just crying tears here because in Canada, tack another $200 and $500 on that.
I'm talking USD.
This is why I'm crying, Pedro.
Yes. Now, nowadays, since the 1070 actually has better computational performance when it comes to Bitcoin mining than the 1080, the 1070 price actually shot up considerably. The 1080 came down to $499. That's the current MSRP. And if they can make the 1070 Ti fit between that $350 and $500 MSRP, then that's actually a sound business decision, because that's a sizable gap for people to throw money at you. Basically.
Well, I mean, absolutely true. My first thought was maybe this is going to make the 1070 cheaper. You can kind of get your hands on a 1070 right now, also because miners eat a bag of dicks. But you're going to be paying a premium for it even today. Outside of that, I mean, I don't see the point. It's a stopgap between. You can't make it as fast as a 1080, and let's face it, the 1070 is almost as fast as a 1080 already.
Yeah. It exists to squeeze money out of that very, very small market segment that can't quite afford the 1080, because NVIDIA is all about using aggressive binning to squeeze money out of their consumer base, which they basically have by the balls, because look at their competition.
Yeah.
There's not any. Vega was so bad that NVIDIA said, we're just gonna re-release the freaking Pascal architecture.
Now, I know people are going to be coming in with a hate mail on that but you speak truth, Eathan. They were getting ready to like launch the next thing, and they were like,
Volta, Volta was probably going to drop around Christmas time.
I'm super mad about that, because I was saving up for a Volta card, and now I gotta wait another freaking year. Fuck you, AMD.
There we go. LGC cares, ladies and gentlemen. So, up next, we have something about duck games and hack ports.
Oh yeah. So this is based on a little tweet from Mike Macho Mike. And he has a little game on GitHub that was written using XNA. And he got it running under the Linuxes using FNA really, really easily. And I think that there's not really much to this story other than that. He has like a GitHub page that links to that. You can build it if you want. But it really just speaks to how good a shape FNA is, and where you can literally, it's getting close to where it's a drop-in replacement. He did say that there's some remaining issues that need to be addressed. And, when you switch tool chains, that's inevitable. That's bound to happen. But the fact that everything basically worked out of the box after you hit builds is quite astounding. It means that Eathan is doing a terrific job. You should totally, if you're not going to give us money via Patreon, you should totally give him some money with his Patreon. He's
absolutely, man.
Really high quality tools.
Well, it wasn't one of Ethan's biggest things. It's like just porting a game in 3 seconds, right?
Yeah, like the sub 30-second port is what he's been chasing or whatever.
So
no, I think he's got it sub 30 seconds. In fact, he posted a tweet a while back saying he'd done a port in 28 seconds. Everything else was just validation to make sure everything was working. So yeah, that's how FNA is. And this one, well, it's Duck Game, which I thought had a Linux version, but I guess not. And Mike just kind of dropped the files in, did some futzing, which you can read all about on the GitHub link that he tweeted about. And it's working.
So what is Duck Game about? I've heard enough for people like Duck Game.
It's a multiplayer, like imagine Towerfall, but it has online multiplayer, and the characters are all ducks, and you can pick up weapons, and it's just mayhem. It's a very good party game from what I hear.
Mm-hmm. So we got that one game, unfortunately, that you couldn't just drop into FNA was Wonderboy, and the lad over at Boiling Steam. All this business in our show notes, by the way. Go check that out at LinuxGameCast.com. He talked to the developer and Eathan about getting it on the Linux.
Mm-hmm. There apparently, when they had originally started developing the Wonderboy 3 port, they had done some work with some very minor SDL stuff and an OpenGL renderer, but because writing OpenGL code is awful, I don't care who you are. Writing OpenGL code is a pain in the butt. It is definitely not as easy as writing DirectX 11 code, which is why they switched the renderer midway through. So Eathan ended up just scrapping the entire thing just because it was done so poorly, or just wasn't up to snuff, and rewrote it from scratch. This discusses some of the more technical issues. You can read the article yourself. I'm not going to read about how various structs and whatnot interact. But one thing that did kind of interest me is Eathan was, or I think it was Omar who was saying, that if you want to get this on GOG, if you have a game that's on GOG that you are now adding a Linux version to, apparently it's not that simple to get it up and running.
No, it's a very manual process from the look of things.
You need to jump through many hoops. But I will say though that the OpenGL issues that Omar described basically is what makes me happy about the developers' reception to Vulkan these days, because it just means that it's the open standard is no longer going to be the second class citizen, because everyone is working on it. We're going to start seeing better tools, better drivers. The Dolphin and RPCS3 guys are poking holes in the API to the point where they're going to have to go and revise them for Vulkan 1.2 and 3 and so on. And that's good. That sort of usage-based feedback will just make the product better.
Yeah, I read through this. It was very interesting, very technical, and kind of made me sad at the end of the day, because the Wonderboy, it had some chugging issues where it should not have had any chuggy issues.
That was in the new updated graphics, though. With the old
but
version.
that's still included in the game that you damn bought, right?
This is true. This is true.
So, yeah.
I mean, you're expecting a Master System game to run perfectly well on a freaking 8-core box with 16 gigs of RAM and a 980? Come on, Vin. Be realistic.
I'm ever the optimist, okay? I can dream, damn it. And I'm still looking at a camera that's not fucking there. This is brilliant. I love it.
Staring off in the distance, Ben waits longingly for that camera.
And lightning.
Yeah.
No lighting, but it's actually the last story of the news. It's Nuvi.
Nuvi.
Yep, it's the Ultima 6 engine. Well, Ultima 6 engine re-implementation. And it doesn't just play Ultima 6. You can play Martian Dreams, Savage Empire, and basically any and all games and mods which were made to work with that engine back in the day. Chances are, if you're lucky, you can get them to work, and if not, you can just submit an issue to the Nuvi GitHub. And it's, I, for one, couldn't really care less about these specific games, but I'll always throw my support behind SDL-based game engine reimplementations, because that work often translates to other engine reimplementations.
Hey man, I definitely think it's a good thing when you need your Ultima 6 or Martian Dreams and Savage Empire fix in 2017. Boda Soda doesn't use CMake. That always makes me happy when I see .config. Martian Dreams and I believe Savage Empires, the 1991 version of Martian Dreams, they're available on GOG for the low price of free right now, at least the data files. So you're going to be able to yoink that business and get it playing. And I'm guessing that's a better solution than DOSBox, maybe? I don't know.
It would probably be a little easier. Plus, you get you get like SDL2 as opposed to dealing with SDL 1.2 and DOSBox. But it's kind of interesting because slowly, very very slowly but surely, all of the Ultima games are going to be playable natively under Linux, except for number 9, because no one wants to touch that with a fucking 10-foot pole. Because fuck that game. I mean, oh my god.
Even the new one, which is not Ultima, except it is Ultima and everything, but named.
It's literally Richard Garriott making a game about the character from Ultima. So it's an Ultima game, despite what the title tells you.
Yep. I don't know, man. Look at it's all the EGA goodness. So.
Oh yeah.
That is, yeah.
And honestly, if you haven't looked at Martian Dreams or Savage Empires, they are cracked out. Like, say what you will about Richard Garriott's game design, he has some interesting ideas about how a setting should look.
Yeah.
Well, I got some ideas about
criminally over design comes to mind.
Ending this segment, so we can go throw some chairs.
Oh yeah, we're it's going to be a little difficult because these chairs are now tethered to one another with like this really stupid elastic band. We're gonna have to figure out a way to deal with it. We're throwing some chairs at Spacebound next. Oh man, we're I think we're kind of stuck together, you and I. We're bound by the quite visible yellow elastic threads of fuckery tossed in this vacuum. We gotta survive. This is Spacebound. And this is the Chairquisition. If you don't know what it is, this is where we, take a look at some games. Sometimes the developers send us a copy. In this case, they did. And we give them a little playthrough, see if they're worth your time. Maybe perform a little QA that was kind of not performed on the game that they released and sold on Steam. And sometimes we just, have a good old time. This is not one of those times. Spacebound is developed by Gravity Well Games. It's on the Light Engine 2D. You can pick it up for around 10 of your local currency, wherever you may live. And Spacebound is a brutally challenged, puzzling platformer set in zero-gravity environment. Stranded and bounded by their oxygen tether, 2 astronauts must work together to make it out alive. Go in alone or team up and face the unknown. So, the Chairquisition has, 4 categories, makes with the working, shiny sounds, controls, and fun. And they're pretty self-explanatory. We also have our chair ratings, and oh my god, that couch makes me want to, I don't know, have sex with someone on there. But one chair means that it's a toilet. 2 chairs means Ben's gonna sit on it. 3 chairs means that you have like a bunch of misshapen office furniture, apparently. And as I said before, 4 chairs is a straight up porno couch. So that's a good bit rating metric. All right, so let's kick this off. Ben, did Spacebound make with the working?
Over here on the Ubuntu 1704 Ryzen 1700 980 powered UHD displayed box of business Mark II Tipsy Danger. Yeah, I couldn't get it to perform any significant amounts of fuckery at 3840 by 2160, 1080, windowed, everything. It just kind of worked. Something this simple should. No issues whatsoever. They did a good job. I got to say, out of the gate, it launched, and it kind of did its thing, man. So we can definitely throw 4 chairs right in this direction.
It's not the porno catch. I'm disappointed. I found out a way to make this game crash, though. If you, because this thing has local and network multiplayer. If you start it up with 2 controllers plugged in, and go into the game, and then unplug one of the controllers, the game does not know how to deal with it, and will just hard lock. And so you got to kill 9 it. Anyways, though, on Fedora 26, 64-bit, I played this mostly on the TV box, so that is the A10 AMD 5800K with the GTX 750 Ti, and it all worked out of the box perfectly well. No complaints aside from when you fuck around with the controllers. 4 cheers.
Yeah, no, over here on the FX8370E and the GTX 1080, it had absolutely no issues. It played it with the Steam controller. It picked it up just fine. So, yeah, 4 chairs.
All right, well, that's 4 chairs for Makes with the Working. How about Shiny and Sounds, Vin?
There's my virtual. It's hipster pixel goodness, man. Have you played Super Meat Boy? Yeah, you've seen this. Have you seen the hipster pixel bullshit we played last week? Fun game, mind you. It's what it looks like, man. You've seen the buzzsaws. You've seen the splattery blood. It's nothing new here. It's not poorly done. It's clearly done with some love. Honestly, Jordan, I think you definitely got a thing with the sounds. You like the soundtrack or something like that. I've never really put the headphones on to play with it because it didn't interest me enough to do that. But more about that in the fun section. It looks all right, man. And I can appreciate what it's going for. And it's very performant. And yeah. Nothing wrong with it, man. Nothing wrong with it. So it's going to get 3 lovely pink chairs.
Oh yeah, no, it looks like a DOS game. I'm reminded of stuff like Liero or whatnot. Very, very simple graphics. Nothing we haven't really seen before. It would normally get 2 chairs, but I do like those funky ass chiptunes, as it were. We've already used that, so don't vote for it. Don't bang suggest it, because fuck you.
That was last week.
That was last week. But anyways, I like the soundtrack. Even when I was getting really, really pissed off at the game itself, I'm like, oh, I mean, like the music is kind of cool to jam out to. I'm into it for sure. I'll give it 3 cheers.
Yeah, no, I'm not impressed. The aesthetics here are bare and forgettable. I couldn't really tell you anything about the visuals other than they're your standard batch of hipster pixel bullshit. And the chiptunes didn't really have the same impact as the ones in Songbringer did last week. In fact, the moment I realized just how annoying they sounded to me, I went into the options menu and nuked them. So from the moment I have to do that, you're not looking at a good score. But it still technically works and it still conveys what it needs to convey. So 2 chairs.
All right, well, that's 2 chairs for the Shanny and the Sands. How about controls, Vin? What did you play this with?
I played this with the good old-fashioned tried-and-true X-Clone controller, which I paid just as much for as a regular Xbox controller, but I didn't want to give Microsoft money. Here's the thing, man. It's a rage platformer. So, of course the controls are going to be intentionally shite. It's a full twin-stick assault of Nope is basically what you're dealing with. You got 2 guys, you control each one of them with the precision of a fart. And that's how it's made, man. Anything I could genuinely complain about has intentionally been put into this game to make me go ree. And again, I'll get into this in the fun section. You can't accomplish that with these types of games. With me, anyway. I think it controls exactly like it meant to control. It's floaty, it's spacey, and there's not much to it. I mean, you've played games of this ilk before, and I genuinely think it did a good job, and there's no like RNG fuck you because that's why. This is a game that tells you what it does on the tin, and it's up to you to sort around it. So yeah, man, I feel pretty comfortable throwing the 4 chairs right at it.
Yeah, this game is the whole premise of it is you're doing the retro booster low grav maneuverability thing. So you'll drift, you'll float, whatever. But I've found that like it's very, very sensitive to very small pushes of like the analog stick. Because if you're off by like a couple angles, you'll drift, or by like a few degrees or whatever, you'll drift, and then you'll just get murdered, and that gets really frustrating over time. The controls are really simple themselves. Each analog stick controls one of the dudes. They're tied together. You can't get the oxygen tether cut, and you can't have either one of them die. That's pretty much it. And you gotta if you're not particularly ambidextrous, you're gonna have a fun time trying to negotiate your way through this.
Oh, now, especially when you get like the guys mixed up left and right.
Oh yeah, that will happen. Now there's also a multiplayer mode as well. I was playing it with my roommate, and in that case, each controller just controls one of the guys, and that presents its own fucky set of challenges that we'll get into in the fun segment. But I mean, the controls do work, but there are some issues with them that are not best addressed in this segment. So I'll give it 3 chairs.
Well, I guess I have to give them credit for setting the whole game around the floaty-ass controls that they have. You're in 0 grav, so the movement is expected to be floaty. The problem is they combined that same floaty movement with the mechanics of one of those precision rage platformers. But more on that later. Floaty controls will be floating controls whether or not they're deliberate, and they never feel good to play, especially when you have to be as precise as, well, you're looking at it right now. I hated this bit so goddamn
This level
much.
almost made me fucking quit.
Oh, try doing this with 2 people and trying to negotiate a fucking strategy. That's
no, it's
Yeah, if I did that with my roommate, my rent would have increased.
pretty much 3 chairs for the controls.
All right, well that's 3 chairs for controls. Let's put a bow on it. Ben, did you have fun playing this piece of shit?
Man, I'm not going to call it a piece of shit. I didn't necessarily hate it. It just necessarily wasn't fun. It didn't appeal to me, and it's been done. It's been done a million times, and it's been done better, for being quite frank about it. What we have here is Super Meat Boy in space. And here's the thing, Super Meat Boy, yeah, it was a rage platform, but god damn, they got the controls right on that. That shit was Mega Man tight, son. It absolutely was. This, much like, Team Meat, spaceBOUND, doesn't do anything for me. Doesn't make me angry. Doesn't bring up my blood. Doesn't make me want to punch a Bobby. No, it doesn't. I'm immune to these fucking rage games. I played too many of them. Didn't even make me blink, And it's not that I particularly hate this entire genre, and it is a genre. This game was made. When you first start off and you're like, why is there a fucking buzzsaw on that side of the wall? Yeah, all right, the levels are stacked against you to piss you off. Don't like that out of the box. It's not even fuck you hard. It's just the whole mechanics of it. Video game's not going to make me lose my shit. I didn't rage quit from this. I raged med from it. I got bored with it. nothing happened. Maybe if they took something like this, I think that's what they're missing, everyone. Jordan, Pedro, I do believe, is if they could have tapped into something to make me want to come back, or something that maybe didn't piss me off, but at least made me go,
if only they'd made a better game.
I'm going to beat this. Like this particular level that you're playing right here. I eventually got through it. When I got through it, I didn't even feel accomplished because I had to say to myself, I bullshitted my way through it. And I think that's the highest skilled player could only say to himself or herself is, yep, bullshitted my way through that level with precision. So, yeah, man, here's the reality of this. I'm sorry, but flush this one right down because it's a pink toilet and deal with it.
Oh, yeah. So I'm actually one of these people who gets like legitimately triggered. I have a patchwork of scars on my legs and a pile full of Smash controllers that will inform you of that. So I get really mad at these games. I know intellectually I shouldn't, but there's this really bad wiring.
I really wanted you to stream this.
Well, I mean, you've seen me play golf with friends, right? I have to struggle and like come up with weird ass coping strategies to stop me from punching a hole in my very expensive 4K monitor. Or, well, expensive to replace. It wasn't expensive, but now it is. Mm-hmm. Now it is once people clued into how good it was. But anyways, yeah, these games do nothing for me aside from like raise my blood pressure and just make me feel shitty. And so I don't like playing them. I play them when I have to for the show, and that's it. I really have to do my best to just not go nuts and punch stuff. I've had to punch a lot. Like that room I used to do this show out of, off screen, there was like a lot of holes in those walls that I've plastered over because I just get mad. I just want to make this abundantly clear when I say this. I can appreciate this sort of game has an appeal to people. There are some people who really, really enjoy these sorts of fucked up challenges with fundamentally unfair gameplay.
They're called Twitch streamers.
Yeah, Twitch streamers or speedrunners, where they have to obsess over every little minute key press and will eventually settle on the solution and then can perfectly reproduce it after hours and hours of practice. I don't have that time. I don't have the inclination. I don't particularly care enough to do that. And so I will never be the target audience for this sort of game. Just never. And that's fine. But this is the fun section. So if I'm not having fun playing your game, I'm just going to shit on it. Now, this game does have multiplayer. I did allude to that before. And that is its own set of challenges. This is like Monopoly, where when you play this with someone else, you start hating them because they make small little course correction adjustments that kill the both of you. And you have to communicate really, really well. And it's just not very conducive to a fun gameplay experience. The control, like Pedro said, the controls are really loose and floaty, and that's intentional. But when you put a bunch of challenges in front of you that say you need to be precise, it's just not a recipe for a good time. Gonna flush the toilet, man. It's one chair. It's garbage. It's like so much placental mass. It just needs to go away.
Yes, this is the fun segment, and no, I didn't have any fun with this game. In fact, I got so mad playing it, I became physically ill and had to have a bit of a lie down. I hate rage games, which, I guess I am supposed to hate them, but I hate them because they tend to be hard for hardness' sake. From someone who has over 140 hours in Dark Souls, myself, trust me when I say, I can tell when a game is being cynically hard for the sake of the very small number of completely insufferable people who like to brag about how good they are at video games. Now I can hear some of you going, oh, look who's talking. Well, I'll only be seen as being good at video games when compared to Fen or Jordan. That's it. I'm not that good. But going back to spaceBOUND, the controls are floaty and you're being asked to do some precision bullshit in terms of both movement and timing. That's missing cynical, ventures past taking the piss, and falls right into sickeningly vile territory. Dear spaceBOUND, please go away and don't come back. One chair.
All right, well, that's one chair for fun. And inexplicably, this game walks away with a Strider, 2 chairs. We got any final thoughts before we close this off and get on to the hate mails?
You know, I tried to like this game, man. I did, but there's just nothing that even that shit like pixel 2D platformer we played with all the blood and gore, whatever the hell it was called. Not Slain, but the one after that.
Oh, yeah.
At least that one kind of entertained me and made me curious about what's next. You know what's next in this. It's just more bullshit.
More.
Demon Peak, that's what you're thinking.
Demon Peak, yeah. I do my damnedest to find something to appreciate, even in Demon Peak. I can find good things. This, I don't know who it's for. I just don't. But if it's for you, it sounds like your gem. What did we clock in on the price? $9.99.
Wait until that goes on sale.
Yeah, you might. Hey, we should mention this was a successfully funded Kickstarter, and it was only like $3,500 too. So,
I mean that's good use of Kickstarter money.
Yeah.
Also, I mean, ultimately, like Ben said, if you like ultra hard, super unfair games, this might be up your alley. If you like actually playing games to have fun, don't buy this game.
No, seriously, steer well clear of this game because video games are supposed to provide you with an experience. This doesn't provide you with an experience. This provides you with anger. Just pure anger.
Which is an experience, by the way.
Anger leads to dual
concrete
booting. Dual booting leads to Windows. Or haiku, even worse.
Yeah.
Very beautiful people.
All right, that about wraps it. You've heard Obi-Wan Kenobi or Yoda or whatever. Anyways, coming up next, we talk about Vega a bunch. I think Vega gets a lot more airtime on this episode than any other.
Oh shit! CHAIRQUISITIONs.
Well, would you look at that? We just spent about an hour shouting in your direction, and now we get the chance to let you shout back in ours. If you would like to be a part of this, well, this frankly insane part of the show,
Motley crew of nightmares.
Yes.
It's also cute how you said an hour. It's been like 3.
Yeah.
Well, it's been an hour for the edited version. If you want to see the full thing, yeah, it's been like 3. You can watch it on YouTube. It'll be there. If you're a Patreon, you get access to it right away. But if you want to send some hate our way, we're always up for some hate mail, as it were. So go over to LinuxGameCast.com, fill out the forum, make sure LGC Weekly is the thing that's on the little drop-downy box. Fill out the forum. It's got a CAPTCHA at the end. And if you're a game developer, publisher, whatever, you want us to play your game, make sure you send us either 3 keys or a build we can share among the 3 of us. Sound fair? Cool. So this week we have a lot of Vega.
Hey man, Colosta. That's only 2 letters away from butt stuff.
I mean, the topic's about butt stuff, as it were. He says, with Vega, is AMD now a valid choice for Linux gaming? ? As far back as I can recall, the de facto GPU of choice on Linux was invariably NVIDIA. Even these days, opinion tends to follow this trend, coupled with advice to use the proprietary driver for outright performance. But AMD have made some significant advances to the open source driver in recent times, have they not? With indicators that Ryzen Core is to be married with Vega for upcoming APUs. Is AMD on the verge of shaking up mobile Linux gaming? Disclosure, I'm in the market for a new laptop that can handle some of the older titles at full HD. Pedro, you've documented a draft of War and Peace. Why don't you read it to him?
No, well, if AMD could actually bring down the TDP on the Vega cards, maybe? Because right now, as I said at the top of the news segment, Vega is not a good option on Linux. The Vega 64 barely just matches the GTX 1080, and the 1080 as a TDP of 180 watts, while the Vega 64 has 350 watts. So no, the Vega is not a good alternative for Linux right now, unless you want to give your power company a run for their money, I guess.
Or you're very cold.
Or you're very cold, yes. On a laptop.
Or
you
if you've
one of
always
those
wanted to
GPUs
buy
on
a
laptop,
1,000-watt power supply.
it won't work on a laptop. You can't have that much power drain and that much heat being generated on a laptop. If you want, if you
battery
really,
about yay big and about yay
yeah. If you really are in the market for a laptop right now and you just want to play older titles at full HD, get the Dell XPS 13 with the Iris Pro GPU or the Entroware Kratos. There's a video of me talking about it, and it performs really, really well. It's got the GTX 1050, which is very good.
Basically anything with like the 1050M will set you on a really good track for gaming, especially on mobile. The 960M that I have in my laptop was a little disappointing. Also, I found out that laptop is now worth on Amazon twice what I paid for it, including the 1 terabyte SSD that I bought on top of it. So,
I don't know, man. NVIDIA is definitely the way to go. I definitely say small correction. The original choice for 3D under Linux was, in fact, 3D effects. So,
Yeah.
you're old. We get it.
get off my lawn, boy.
Up next.
Hey, oh shit, more Vega from Chi. You know him, you love him. And I thought it was going to be from Chi's Beard, who has a separate account, but this is just from Chi.
No. Yeah, he left this as a comment on on the G Plus share that I made of Raja taking a quote-unquote sabbatical. And he said, well, not to be a gobshite about it, or even worse in Portuguese, I'm glad. I'm very glad. I love what they are doing on the driver front for FOSS. However, if they had pulled their ads out of their asses and actually worked with the community years ago, they would be in a much stronger position now. Just my personal opinion. Not just yours, Shay. Not just yours.
Yeah, you see, if wishes were fishes, we'd all be drowning in sashimi. Because AMD has made a number of missteps on the open source front, or just on the Linux front in general. Number one, if they had better Linux support, that would put them in a very good competitive space for enterprise graphics, because CUDA is the way to go. Pixar, Blizzard, all these guys, they're using CUDA because that is the most effective means of using parallel compute. But they didn't capitalize on this. There's a massive supercomputer market that orders hundreds of thousands of dollars, millions of dollars of GPUs that they're kind of just ignoring and sort of left them to NVIDIA. And now,
I mean, that's definitely something people forget. NVIDIA doesn't make it rain cash from enthusiast video cards. That's not where the big check is from.
They don't. Hell, the reason that NVIDIA OpenGL support is so good is because of the enterprise market. Now they're fixing issues with games because they're getting bug reports for them. But before, it was 100% enterprise. And hell, even the fact that they created the foundational technology, they didn't even have a competitive Vulkan support until well after NVIDIA and even Intel had released their offerings. The fact remains that Intel or AMD has had misstep after misstep in their GPU division. And really, they could be a very viable competitor, but they have to sort of get out of this mindset of, we're lazy. We're going to let the community handle it. We want you to we want you to add hardware access control lists in the kernel, even though they've been explicitly removed because they're fundamentally unmaintainable. They keep trying to come up with these very, very half-hearted solutions and then saying, well, it's open source, so you should be, we're engaging with the community.
Well, I mean, even things so much as like Feral having to go back and unfuck their business, man.
And Feral having to put special checks at the start of their games to, oh, you're running an AMD GPU. Right. Then we're going to be using this particular code path. So, yeah, no, it's AMD, as I mentioned earlier. They are in that unique position. They could give Intel, NVIDIA run for their monies, but they can't. They can't because they keep half-assing shit. When their response to NVIDIA providing the source, they didn't open source those bits of the NVIDIA frameworks, like HairFX and the other one, I can't remember what it was called.
Shadowplay.
Shadowplay. No, Shadowplay wasn't.
that never came out. That never came out on Linux, man.
No. And AMD did the GPU Open initiative, which went nowhere.
Yeah, Well, I mean,
thought
the
it was
code still
schlong
exists.
mapping.
Well, that's only for Age of Conan and Rust. It has a very
Got it.
limited market
Got it.
Yes.
That's what it was.
for dedicated junk physics.
Junk physics. I want a card dedicated for junk physics, man. I'd buy it.
Yeah, it's the DAU, the Dong Accelerator.
I
unit.
mean, when the physics standalone card was the thing, I was like, that's stupid. And it's like, it only works for junk. And I was like, give me one. I don't care. Here, take it.
Real-time genital simulation, man. You need
Don't care, man.
specialized
I
hardware
want a
for it.
card clearly labeled in my box. that
Buy
says
a more
junk physics
expensive
on it.
video card. It'll make your schlong
What
better.
would even be better is if it had like a USB port out that like terminates to a fleshlight or a dildo or something. That would just be
man.
perfect.
It'd be brilliant. Ladies and gentlemen, it has been brilliant because on that bombshell, let's cue the music. You can always find us around 9:30 Eastern Standard Moon Time. I think next week we might ratchet it back up and actually do that early show. I'm going to say I'm going to do it if we can get everybody else on board. I'll make it happen because it's kind of a nightmare pain in the ass for me to pull it off, but I'm willing to do it because we owe it to you. If you want to get in touch with me at Vinstone on that thing down there and all that kind of brilliant bit, but just search for Vinstone. I'll try to get back to you. I promise you I will at least read everything you send me.
I'm Jordan Svung. You can find me napping until about 3 minutes before the show starts at The Burning Pool on Twitter, plus Jordan Svung on Google+, aka pulling a Strider, just waking up before the show. Got the bedhead, haven't even had your coffee yet. It's good stuff.
Well, you can find me napping not too long after we wrap this up because it's 5:34 a.m. Scene. Well, I am Pedro Matheus. You can find me at Unaccounted For on Twitter. Send me, poke me at any time. Chances are I will get back to you when I get back to you. You can also do pretty much the same thing on Google Plus if you're on that ghost town of a social network.
It's kind of brilliant. So I guess the one thing we have learned is the pager of this one is aging far more rapidly. And do you need some more milk?
Yeah, we need to give him a milk enema.
Not milk, but I could actually go for some Earl Grey right about now.
Earl Grey enema, got you. Tea, Earl Grey, hot. Oh, God!
It's everywhere. I can't stand it.
No, Earl Grey is really, really good. It's definitely my favorite tea.
Yes. There we go. Not suitable. It's like too pink.
Too pink. Yeah, see, these should have all been like hot pink fuzzy credits.
Too much work. I did find out I could key out the black in the background and like do the old school like 80s sitcom credits where they just roll over. I did that last week.
Oh yeah, with like stop motion, just freeze us all. And we don't even have to simulate anything because Jitsi will just crash.
Right.
Well, if it looks anything like the hangout for the return video, yeah, it freezes a lot.
And see.
5 dudes.